So I wanted to do a video on suicide. Um, I've had a few run-ins with suicide in my life. Um, I tried to kill myself when I was in jail, and my best friend killed himself in my garage, and my brother killed himself living homeless in the woods. A few others, thus close to my heart. Um, so I understand it. It's it's an issue in our society. It's an issue in Asian cultures. Now, most of the time, you know, I would say the source of a suicide is when you look into the future with your imagination. And what you see is not worth it. It's not worth suffering for. So you want to save yourself from that suffering. That's why. Now, there's I think a stigma with suicide that is like the person killed themselves because they're ashamed. And that might be true for some. I certainly hope it is, because I think a lot of people should be ashamed. Um, but I think that sometimes they don't know that they should be ashamed. So that's when there's one of my lucky uh the number 13. I like it. It originated from Friday the 13th. There was a group of English lords and soldiers, and they wanted to make a bank that was in competition with the Vatican. And so they didn't want to deal with the Catholics for wealth. And so they started another bank, and they were all murdered for it by the Catholics to control the banking system. And they did that on Friday the 13th. And then they have that movie 13 Ghosts, which I really like. And then there's that movie 13 Hours. And in 13 Hours, it does all tie together because the the banking system is enforced by the military. I'm not saying that those movies are specific metaphors for um, you know, propagating state religion banking system, but or a monolithic there we go, banking system. Um, but it's part of Western culture history that that bank dominated the world through war and murder, and to some extent, so does the U.S. banking system today. Uh, so that's it. Anyway, in 13 hours, there is a line where the main character, I forget his name, uh, says, the ability to live with yourself is priceless, right? Or they asked him what he did it for. What'd you do it for? You're in a country that nobody cares about, and you you're risking your life, you're missing your family grow up. It's all for nothing. And he goes, yeah, but the ability to live with yourself is priceless. So in his mind, it was because what I believe what I'm doing is the right thing. I'm gonna have pride and dignity, despite what anybody else thinks, right? Um, so that was his kind of motivation, and I get that. You know, if in 10 years somebody in like everybody, let's say the whole world, lines up and says, "We think this about you, Mike. It's bad. You're bad. You're bad," and tries to impose a shame-based suicide on me, right? As opposed to me doing the math and looking into the future and saying, my future is so bad. There's so much suffering in it. I want to avoid that suffering. I want to escape. And ending my life for that. That's one thing. And then it's another thing entirely to say, I'm so ashamed because of what other people think of me that I'm gonna kill myself. Now, I could see how they would cross over. If you were so dependent on other people for survival, their opinion of you could impact your quality of life to the point where the latter becomes the former. In other words, social isolation or being a social outcast is so bad that it's causing you physical suffering to the point where it's no different than having a terminal neurodegenerative disease or, being tortured to death. It's physical pain, it's not, oh, woe's me, I'm so embarrassed, woe's me, I'm so embarrassed can always be blocked, shielded, defended by, yeah, but what I did in the past is awesome. It is. So, you're shaming me? Look at you. You can't shame me. Are you nuts? Like, you can't do it to somebody who can look into their past and say, living with myself is priceless. The ability to live with myself is priceless. Because I can defend myself against shame. I know. So the simple math is suicide is a vehicle to escape physical suffering. Social prestige is a mechanism to reproduce, basically. In the absence of social prestige, I don't get a wife. I don't get a girlfriend. But, eventually I think maybe when I'm like old and I can't, or if I broke both my legs, maybe that would be like I'm alone, so I can't even get a sandwich. I can't even get to the bathroom because I'm so old. That's different. Then that isolation becomes a source of physical suffering. But as like a social pressure, it's meaningless to me. It's not a source of suffering because I look into my past with huge amounts of pride. And I don't mean my genetic past. I mean like what I did as an individual. So And it's not seated in other people's opinion. Nobody told me, Mike, you did a good job. It's like, no, I told that to myself. It's not even, it's unshakable. They'll also try to use sex. Like, oh, you masturbate. Excuse my language. It's not, but it's an assumption made because I'm single, right? It happens to be true. I'm a grown man. I view it as like um, a vice. It's not something I'm proud of per se, but it's like going to the bathroom. You know, I don't consider it socially appropriate to talk about it. You know, I don't think it should be done free in the street. You know, I think it's like going to the bathroom. Um, it's not like making love to a woman. That's different. But you have to. But if somebody, and this is something people, a weapon people have used against me, try to impose shame based on the fact that I'm an adult man who has, hormones and needs. I don't feel ashamed. I don't. My interests are um, innocent enough. They're not focused on the innocent. Let's just leave it there. My interests are not tied at all into um, disturbing the innocent in any way. That's all. That's all I care about. I don't care about sexuality beyond that. As long as you're not targeting the innocent, and I know I'm not in my heart and in my actions and in my mind, then honestly I don't care. But if your heart's intention is to target the innocent, you want to be the first or whatever, I think you're suspect. You know, I'm not saying every single uh, cherry popper out there is uh, a Manson in waiting, but it's to me that's a red flag. That's a big red flag. If you're big on being the first, or you're big on like playing the daddy role or something like that, big red flag. Um, but outside of that, like gay, straight, metrosexual, open-minded, closed-minded, whatever, dude. Just keep it all. I don't want to see it. I don't want. That's my thing. But as far as like trying to make me ashamed and killing myself, I mean, no, it is not gonna happen from that. You want to make me kill myself? You can give me like, um, terminal cancer. Yeah, or you can literally burn my house down and make me homeless, break my leg, and then I'll be a homeless person with a broken leg. Then I'll think about it, you know. But as far as like shame and like looking into my past, you're just gonna make me incredibly bold because I know how proud I should be, you know. It's it's really just gonna make me angry and proud at the same time. Investigating my past because it's awesome. It's nearly flawless. It's nearly flawless. I did almost everything right at every stage of my life. As far as work, as far as being a father, as far as being a boyfriend or a husband. Again, not perfect, but I didn't beat anyone. I didn't rape anyone. I didn't tie anyone up in the basement. I didn't do anything by force. Okay? And maybe I was mean with my words at times. But I'm not gonna kill myself over that. I'm not gonna feel tremendous unending shame over wrong language. It's a bad thing. I acknowledge it. But it's not outweighed even close by my deeds or my intentions. Not even close. It's not like I have good intentions and I did no work. Or I have good intentions and I did some work but used horrible language. It's like I had good intentions and I did a shitload of work, and the work was really useful, and I did it for a really long time, and I did it for people who weren't even like me, and then I used some bad language. It's like it's so out of balance. It's like, honestly, I would be insane if I felt ashamed. That being said, I think that a lot of people should probably kill themselves, um, because of their shame. Um, I think that that is a virtue, actually. Because if you're guilty of some of this stuff, like war crimes, like like murdering people for money, like rape, like these crimes, like kidnapping, these crimes exist. People are guilty of them. Um, they're actual human beings who are walking around every day with that burden on their soul, right? And these people should kill themselves. It's the right thing to do. And I say it's the right thing to do because if they don't feel shame, it's because they don't have an internal police force. They don't have the ability to empathize and understand the suffering that they've caused and the zero amount of good that they've done to balance that out. It means that they're a psychopath or a sociopath if they don't kill themselves, because they don't have the capacity to punish themselves or even acknowledge what they did was wrong. I think that in that situation alone is where external intervention needs to be applied. That's when you have a court case. That's when you have a trial, an investigation, and eventually an execution. If you're not a psychopath or a sociopath, you should never end up on death row, right? Because you should kill yourself. You shouldn't be able to live with yourself if you're actually guilty, unless you're a psychopath or sociopath. If you're a psychopath or sociopath, you're incapable. That part of the brain that deals with emotions is dead. It's not getting any blood and it's not getting any oxygen for one reason or another. You had a stroke as a kid. Um, your genetics through thousands of years evolved that part of your brain to be small and weak. Um, Whatever. There's a little piece of lead lodged in the center of that part of I don't know. There's probably multiple mechanisms and multiple regions of the brain associated with emotions. But once you stop having the capacity to experience emotions, you stop being able to project that on other people, and ergo imagine their suffering. And if you can't imagine their suffering because you can't experience it yourself, you can't understand the damage you're doing. Right? It's logical. And because of that, you wouldn't ever think to kill yourself. So how do you know I'm not a psychopath, right? Well, I'm very emotional. I cry, I yell, I experience strong emotions. I fall in love all the time. I fall in love probably more than most three other people combined. People don't believe I fall in love. I mean, I haven't probably. It's been almost 6 or 7 years since I've fallen like truly in love with anybody. I've had strong emotions for women, but it's usually like it's a distraction. It's like I want to fall in love, but it's not like I'm not gonna cry if they say, Mike, I don't feel the same way about you anymore. It's not gonna really upset me because I'm just trying to keep that spark alive in me, and I do. I have that like feeling now and then, but to actually say I haven't, or I've had any sort of emotional relationship in a long time would be a lie. That being said, I'm many things, but a sociopath and psychopath is not one of them. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum would be an empath, which is somebody who experiences overly strong emotions, and that would probably be closer to where I am than a psychopath. But being overly empathetic, uh, it's a weakness in another way. It's a weakness that makes you a victim. It makes you walk in to situations where you would become a victim. We're on the opposite end of the spectrum. A psychopath is going to walk into the situation that makes him a predator. You know, an empath is going to walk into the situation that makes him a victim. Um, so I'm not worried about that either. But yeah, so if I've ever induced a suicide in my life, based on shame that I've reminded people that they should have, I say good, and I say that they were probably better people than the people giving them orders, because I wish the people giving them orders killed themselves before they gave that person an order, because at least he was good enough to kill himself, to know he should be ashamed, you know? That's a better person. That's a better person.